Okay, so welcome to day two of the talk. So Helga touched on motivation, but I'd like to just run through it again because remember, like, how we are right now is how we've been thinking and feeling for the last weeks, months, years. So our attitude about life is really important. It's the creator of how we create our experiences. So therefore, we should be more attentive to it. I mean, for example, I know of Buddhists that have been 10 or 20 years practicing Buddhism, and at a certain point their practice gets a little flat. And you say the problem is that they lost motivation, or they were just, oh yeah, I'm doing it for the benefit of everybody, whatever. And they don't really engage that in a way. I mean, for example, saying the prayer, I go for refuge of the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, from now until enlightenment, I work for the benefit of all, such things we have. You whap it off fast. I don't know if there's any feelings there. So you want to make sure that you engage your feelings with when you do your prayers or whatever it is, because that's the stronger accumulation of karma. I mean, we might be familiar with the idea of karma. It just means action. So action of body, action of speech, action of mind. So with that, then, in Buddhism, when we use the word mind, we refer to the whole package of your experience. Say conscious awareness, which includes both thoughts, feelings, emotions, all of those things. In fact, it refers even to states of consciousness, to being coarse consciousness down to being very subtle levels of consciousness that you would access through your meditation. So therefore, if we do a prayer, then slow it down just a little bit, engage your thoughts, the words you're going to say, but then also your feelings. And one of the tutors of the Dalai Lama, named Trichang Rinpoche, he made a comment once when I was attending some teaching. He said, "Hey, you start with your family first." And oh, really? I thought we were sort of trying to be universal. He says, well, if you don't start with your family, how can you ever expand to all the sentient beings? And there's all these weird sentient beings out there, So how can you have any power in the thoughts and feelings that you have? I don't think we need that. My voice is pretty strong.
A little bit back here.
Well, as you wish, then, sure. Okay, anyway, so it's important that we engage our thoughts and our feelings and emotions. Then, of course, our voice. Some people say, well, why do I have to say prayers out loud? Well, it's the accumulation of karma with your voice. And again, if you don't ever say anything, you don't get the quality of your voice, the tone of your voice. And so having sincerity, the tone of your voice, that adds to the sort of the karma of who you are. Because karma is not just something in my pocket. Karma is you. You are the product of how you've been thinking and feeling and acting over the last 5, 10, 20 years of your life. So therefore, motivation in Buddhist terms is really, really important. Now, in regards to that then, if we think about it in terms of just regular...
You can pull it.
No. Okay. That. There we go. That's pretty good. You can all hear me now with my echoing voice. Okay, anyway. So, talking in practical terms, I want to be happy. Of course I want to be happy. And what that would mean is I want to be happy in a constructive way, a way that's going to be useful for me. So, in Buddhist terms, we would say that's enlightened, being more enlightened about my life. And so, therefore, I want to be happy, i.e. I would like to be a little more enlightened in my life, how to manage situations and things, how to manage myself. Okay, so I'd like to be more enlightened, which is very good. That's a positive feeling in yourself. But you can actually expand that. This comes back to what Trichang Rinpoche said, that if, for example, you're sitting here and, okay, I'm attending a class, I'm going to study and meditate, whatever, but then bring to mind someone that you love. And so whether it's a person in your family or a friend, or actually even your pet, because sometimes we have a really nice feeling of love for our pets. So you bring to mind your little happy dog waving its tail looking at you, and you feel, oh, I love my little doggy, like that. Well, then just say, I'm here for them too. And suddenly what you have is an expanded state of consciousness. You've just created that karma that you're doing something for more than yourself. And that's, in this style of Buddhism, it's called Mahayana Buddhism, the great vehicle. It refers to that, having that greater sense of consciousness about myself. And today we're going to cover the two second points, what's called the middle vision of spiritual practice and the great vision of spiritual practice, and we'll talk about that in detail, or to some extent. But for now, anyway, just for motivation, that's how you're creating this moment. And if you're regular with a certain style of motivation about your life, like, I'd like to be more enlightened in my life, it creates a continuity. So after a few years, you're going to wake up and you have that sense about yourself, because you did it, you created yourself that way. So motivation is important, but as I said, let's put a little bit of depth or vista, panorama to that, which is that I'm here for more than myself. So bring to mind someone that you love, and as they actually have the feeling come in your heart, like, I love that person, or I love my pet, or I love those friends I have. And then say, I'm here for them too. I'd like to, my enlightenment that I get, I'd like to offer for them too. And that way then, you're creating yourself in a nice way. Now, the subject matter we're in, if we look back to yesterday, we talked about getting in touch with yourself. What's meditation? It's shutting down the outside world, bringing the threshold of your awareness to a deeper internal level, and you are more in touch with yourself, who is the creator of your experience. So that's really important. And if you really think about our life, we're so, I would say, dominated by everything that's going on around us. Like what our mother and father say to us or expected of us, what our friends say or expect of us, what culture says and expects of us, what they want from you from work, so you're really like, okay, who am I? Well, I better be this and that for those people, and so sometimes we're living a very externalized life, and we're acting according to what are those expectations. So when we're talking about meditation, is shutting down those, and you're not ignoring them and sort of saying they're not important, but you're pulling back into yourself and saying, okay, with your breathing, well, I'm a little more in touch with myself. Okay, well, who am I? Well, generally you can say, I like to be a nice person. I like to be happy. I like to feel good about who I am when I'm doing with others. Yeah, I like that, So that's your meditation in one way is that. And if so I'm talking about what we did yesterday, that you want to be able to cultivate a conscious experience of, I'm in peace with myself. I like myself. And so if you can develop a really good familiarity with that, what you create is a buffer, personal space. And that personal space then gives you the ability to not be reactive and to sort of say, okay, well, this person's doing this. Who am I? Where do I want to come from? Well, a little bit. Okay, well, this is who I am. I'd like to be. That's what meditation is. It's what it really is. It's about that personal space that you have personal clarity. Now, there's lots of techniques. Buddhism has 2,500 years worth of teachings on that. So they've got a really good, it's a batting average. They've produced a lot of saints, okay? And it's not like there's some external entity which is like the creator of our situation. For Buddhism, we are the creator of our situation. We are the creator of our experience. So your mindfulness meditation is just that. Getting in touch with you, the source, the creator of how you're experiencing things. And whether it's this general Buddhist practice or profound, even tantric practice, they all come from that position. Like, who am I? Where am I coming from? So anyway, we talked about that yesterday, and how would that work? So, I've got a microphone in front of me. So, if you had your regular breathing, okay, like let's say get my left hand slow down a little bit, it's more natural breathing, then you take your attention and you try to match those two. Now, what you have is, my body's comfortable. That's meditation. It's not torture. You should try to be comfortable. Not like that comfortable, but like, good posture so you can breathe properly. So that's part of this hand moving. Then natural breathing automatically makes your body feel comfortable, makes your mind get more comfortable, your emotions get more comfortable, and then your attention, conscious awareness, mindfulness, participates with that. And it actually, with familiarity, can become very strong. You know, like suddenly you've got someone in front of you angry or whatever, you just shift to your breathing, and because of maybe you have a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years worth of mindfulness, you immediately have this space. And it was all inside of you. You didn't have to smoke a joint, or you didn't have to take some CBD oil, or you didn't have to, I don't know, have your medication. You had it automatically there. Just, okay, one breath. There's a great Buddhist teacher from, well, he's Vietnamese, he lived in France, Thich Nhat Hanh. Now, he's passed away, but he has a wonderful set of teachings called Peace in Every Step. Basically, it's mindfulness. And it's really important. It's the ground of who we are. So, if we build up a familiarity with, I'm at peace with myself, I actually like myself, I know who I am, where I'm coming from. This is super important. Then, whether it's with your spouse or your family member or something, you have a little bit of an opportunity to be the person that you'd like to be, not just to be reactive or defensive or whatever it is to who they are and what they're saying and doing. And I can, I'll tell you a story, okay? It's fun to tell stories, okay? So, a long time ago, I was in Canada, I had a meditation center, and one lady came, and she was an artist, a very good artist, and she said, well, I'm an artist, and I get passionate about stuff, but I'm married to an artist, and he gets passionate about his stuff, and so sometimes we get passionately upset, and I've even thrown dishes at him that I've been so angry, And he said, I don't want to do that anymore, I'm so tired of that, So I said, okay, well, just join the group, we'll learn how to meditate and stuff, so fine. So she attended for a good couple months, 4 or 5 months, And I wasn't monitoring her or anything, but she was, calming down. Just like I said, she was getting in touch with herself. She had developed a bit of personal space and feelings and things like that. So then one day, I'm at home, and then there's a at the door, and I open the door, and it's her husband. And he's a big guy, and I'm sort of like, okay, and he says, thank you so much. Okay, and I said, oh, my wife, she's changed. I just, thank you so much, Anyway, I said, okay, thank you very much. Nice to meet you. Thank God you didn't punch me or something, Anyway, but point being is that's the sign that actually your meditation's working. That your family members suddenly go, hey, well, you're a little different than you used to be, like you're not so reactive. In fact, I even had another friend, another one of my students, who's an artist also. Seems artists like to be meditators. And she was from Alberta. We were in British Columbia. And she was quite eccentric. Quite eccentric, quite weird, okay? She did really interesting art, but was a weird woman. Anyway, so some of her relatives came from Alberta, and they were fundamentalist Christians. That's really like, you have JC, and you're going to heaven. If you don't have JC, you're going to hell. That was just that was it. There's no options on that, whatever. And so they came out, and she's a Buddhist and a meditator. No, they didn't say anything. But then after about 3 or 4 days, they said, no, we don't really know what you're doing, but we like what you've become, so please keep doing it. They're family, yeah. Anyway, meditation, a lot of it is just getting in touch with yourself and developing that conscious ability to be at peace, body comfortable, mind comfortable, emotions comfortable, and I can be there. I'm sort of home, okay? And I've got familiarity with that. And because it's with your breathing, which is important, it's not an intellectual idea. It's tied with what's physically going on. And that's what makes it powerful. That's what makes it powerful. So if you develop your meditation ability, then you can just shift to it, and you immediately have this bit of space. It's not like you don't care. It's not like things aren't important. But you've got that space where then you can say, okay, how would I like to react? A little bit, okay? So that was what we did yesterday. We talked about it in a variety of ways. I do record this, and I posted it on my YouTube channel. I don't know if the center here is the YouTube channel. We can transfer over there too. So that's what yesterday was, just to get us up to the same speed. Now, what that is like the central core. The teachings are like scaffolding around a building. So when you study Buddhism, it is a scaffolding. And if any religion, whatever you do, it's a scaffolding because the real thing inside of the scaffolding is you, the person. You're a good person. You're in harmony with reality or with God or whatever you happen to have as a belief system. So the philosophy or the technique is a scaffolding. So yesterday we covered some basics in the scaffolding of like, how do I create me inside of this? Like, because the scaffolding helps you construct yourself up through first, second, third, fourth floor, like that. So let's say the ground floor is called the initial scope of spiritual practice, and it is really brief. I'm not going to go through all the details. It's on the YouTube channel, and I talked about it yesterday. Is one, hey, I got a good rebirth. And I like to refer to it as, I won the lottery ticket of a good rebirth. Now, why? So, if I had a ticket, okay, so I bought the ticket this morning, and then this afternoon, they gave the numbers, and I went, hey, I just won. I wouldn't say the Super Bowl, because that'll ruin your life, yeah, but, I won $1 million, which nowadays that's sort of, $1 million, anyway, at least for some people, okay. Anyway, I just won $1 million. How do you light up, you haven't even got the money yet, but you got this feeling of potentiality. I can do something with myself, Wow, I'm excited, I'm turned on, I'm stoked, like that. And, when you go to bed at night, you can't even sleep, and then you wake up in the morning and you jump out of your bed, You never do that normally. I get out of my bed, I'm going to go to the bathroom, and, get out of my way, where's my cup of coffee? No, it's like, woohoo, it's like, you're exhilarated. Well, it's just a silly piece of paper, and you haven't even got the money yet. But it's because of the idea of, hey, I just won $1 million. So sometimes we have this rather pathetic opinion about ourselves, like maybe I'm a little ill, or I've got some problems, or I've got some emotional problems, or maybe I'm divorced, or maybe I'm single, or maybe I'm married, that's the problem. I don't know, we have all sorts of funny stuff, yeah? Anyway, so the thing is, you make those a priority, and then you live underneath those. So instead of that, the first teaching on what's called the initial scope of spiritual practice is that, hey, I got opportunity. I can do stuff, And in the teaching of that, it gives you a bunch of points which are, quite sort of, in a sense of Buddhist sort of for spiritual practice. But the bottom line is, it is about feeling excited about your life. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or you're poor, you're healthy, you're fat, you're skinny, or whatever. You have some potential. You can do something with yourself. So get excited about it. Get turned on about it. And you can use the example of the lottery ticket to say, like, can I do that? So when you wake up tomorrow morning and you're lying in your bed, you say, oh, I'm excited a little bit. I hope the bathroom's empty. But instead of saying, hey, it's a sunny day in El Paso. I can do something. So it's an analogy. The feelings that you would have if you won $1 million lottery ticket, and then try to say, okay, hey, I'm not pathetic. I've got possibilities. I've got options. I like to feel good about myself. It's not like, oh, I have a miserable job and it sucks. Like, I'll give you a good example of that. So I was in India for 14 years. I went there when I was 20, came back when I was 34. I had all these rules as a monk, things. I was a reasonably good monk. But I came back to Canada, and, what's my resume read? 14 years Buddhist monk. It doesn't get you anything, and then on top of that, the culture was completely unsupportive. So anyway, I returned my ordination, which didn't mean I wasn't a bad Buddhist. It's just I had 253 precepts, and I dropped it down to 5. So I had 5 principles that I wanted to live my life by, rather than 253. And so that's fine. I'm a layman, and then I can get married and have a relationship, which, when you're a monk, you're celibate. So that's fine. So I did that, and then I married a friend of mine that had lived in India for about 6 or 7 years. So she knew me. She knew that I'd been a monk, which is sort of packaged. This is a guy that's been sort of living in this other world. Okay, can I handle him? She had a lot of compassion for me. Anyway, so I got married. But then, I mean, so she was a nurse, that's easy, so she had a good job. What am I going to do? So I thought, well, okay, got to find a job, you know. So I like woodworking and tools and stuff, you know. So, okay, so I went to a hardware store and they said, they actually had an opening. So they hired me just like that. They looked at me, okay, you're it. Okay, I must have a good rating, a good aura or something, you know. Anyway, so they hired me. But then I got to sit there and say, well, I just did 14 years of Buddhism. I did a 3-year retreat in solitude, meditating to become enlightened and everything. And now I'm in a hardware store. How do you deal with that? But no, so I did this okay. I says, may I help you? That's all. I said, may I help you? And so yes, I'll help you buy a screwdriver, or I'll help you buy this or that. And if you ever asked a question about the nature of reality or love and compassion, I'll answer that too. But what was interesting is I had to work there for 4 years. At the end of it, people would come in the store, and I never said I was Buddhist, but they'd come and say, where's that Buddhist guy? I want to talk to him. I mean, it was just because, I was chatty and things. So my point being is that whatever your job is, you don't have to think, oh, it's just for the money, it's just for the drudgery, or whatever it is your reason. You can say, may I be helpful? I mean, it's your headspace. And I mean, we all do need money. That's sort of one small reality. But we can be happy in that environment. And if we have somebody who's a pain in the butt, well, that's their stuff. I mean, I'm going to try to be happy, nice person, friendly. Actually, I could go into a long story on a lot of that. It was interesting. I mean, 14 years Buddhist monk, and then that's telling me in a work environment, and then there's interpersonal conflicts, and managers and sub-managers, and anyway, but hey, we're not there for that. But maybe one day I could do that. But anyway, so the point is that you can bring potentiality to all the things you do. It's just an attitude thing. And so whatever job it is that may I be helpful, whatever way is most suitable, and such. That's precious human rebirth. Second point, things are impermanent, things change. And the big one in that one is, at the end of your life, how do you want to feel? Do you want to be lying in your deathbed, and you look around at your possessions and you say, I feel good about those things, I shared them. I was generous when it was possible. My house, I invited people to stay with us or whatever, and things like that. People when they came to visit me in my house, they were happy. So the thing, I feel good about my house. Thank you, house, for what you've done and what we've offered. And then you go to your relationships, and it's not what I'm getting from those people, it's what am I offering to them? Because at the end of my life, I'm going to die. When I look at the face of maybe a family member or friends or something like that as I'm dying, how do I want to feel? I want to feel, hey, I was a good friend for you. I did some good stuff, hey, we had some fun. Yeah, it sucks to die, absolutely. Don't think that it doesn't. It's not going to be any fun when you're on your deathbed. But at least you're going to say, hey, I lived a good life, and with you, I had some fun, whether we were lovers or whether we were just friends, and that's what you want to feel with. You don't want to feel with, like, you son of a bitch, like this, and you're out of my will, I hate you, like that. You don't want to die like that. That's a miserable mind. You want to die with, hey, okay, yeah, you were a difficult person, but I forgive you. That's you. That's your side of the fence. Anyway, so I'm talking about things that are impermanent. So I think you can just bring the threshold of death in front of you as an imagination and say, well, if I was to die today, how would I feel? Well, I feel pretty good about my possessions because I did some good stuff. I feel pretty good about my friendships because I was a good friend. I was an honest, trustworthy, supportive friend. And finally, with my body, it wasn't about vanity. It wasn't about how well I groomed it or went to the gym and pumped metal or the fancy foods I fed it or the fancy creams and lotions I spread on it or the soaps I used to wash it. It's what I did with it. So, again, you can lie on your deathbed and say, hey, body, you did a good job. Thank you. We were a good person. Rather than, damn it, I paid, $10,000 for that facelift and now you're fucking dying on me, it's like that. Or, we can, like, getting those perked up or get a bit of liposuction or, I don't know. I mean, there's funny stuff people do with themselves, which is fine. I mean, if you want to do it, do it. But the thing is, at the end of your life, your body's going to be the thing that kills you. So, hey, use your body well so you can say, hey, body, we did a good job, thank you for being there to support me. So anyway, that's the second point. I'm getting a little bit detailed, but I'll grab quickly. Then the third one on the initial scope of spiritual practice is that inspiration. So in Buddhism, we don't worship the Buddha. We're inspired by the Buddha and the way he lived his life and such like that. So again, I talked about that yesterday extensively. So this Buddha is the inspiration. The teachings are the techniques that he basically experienced and practiced and fully experienced that he shared. And then finally the community, which is your friends that help you keep a good mind, keep you sort of steady on the path, or steady with good feelings. But I feel good about myself. So that's your refuge. That's the third point, which is Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Buddha is the inspiration. The teachings are the techniques I use to live a better, more enlightened life. And I have my friends that we're trying to make ourselves, support ourselves. That's the third point. And this is just getting yourself set up. We're not talking about any fantastic stuff. We're just talking about reality. Like, hey, I got potential. I know what's important and not important now. I've got a source of inspiration about how I want to live my life. And then finally, karma. And karma is just, right now, all of us sitting here, we are the product of how we've been thinking, the way we've been acting, the way we've been speaking. So when you get teachings on karma, you get a lot of detail about how to cultivate yourself. With sincerity. It's not sort of scientific. It's like how to have sincere feelings. One of the biggest things of that is empathy. And where do you get empathy from? By being in touch with yourself. Back to meditation. Okay, whoa, that hurts. I can feel that hurts, And then I have real compassion, real love. Okay, anyway, so that's the basic. So that's there. Okay, I finished yesterday, all right? Just any questions? Because it's not like this, I'm going to monologue. Any questions or commentaries?
When you were in India, what city was it?
I was in Dharamsala in the north where the Dalai Lama lived. I lived there mostly. Actually, the Dalai Lama's in America right now, I think, still, isn't he? I mean, he had his knee surgery a couple days ago, and I think he's in recovery. You wouldn't want to fly, what is it, like 23 hours back to India with knee surgery just having happened. Or at least you'd want to be in first class with your legs stretched out. Anyway, so, no questions, commentaries? Yes?
Did you say it's your vices that kill you?
Which?
Did you say it's your vices that kill you?
They could.
I understood what you said. Okay.
No, it is, well, something kills you. A way. It's a way of saying it. I mean,
Right.
there's some cause of our death.
You kill your spirit.
Yeah, you could do that without a bad attitude. But yeah.
This is vice.
Okay, good. All right. Anyway, okay. So conclude part one. So now we're into part two. Now, just so we understand what we're doing today, I'm going to finish a little bit more about the scaffolding around our who we are. Remember, our mindfulness meditation is the core, and the scaffolding is the teachings. And then this afternoon, we're going to do a Tara initiation, and that'll be a female Buddha that is basically enlightened activity. I'll discuss that a little later. But so that's the progression that we're in for this weekend. So the middle scope or the middle vision of spiritual practice. So round one is I feel good, I know what's important and unimportant, I've got a sense of inspiration, and I know how better to work with myself. Karma. Okay? That's part number one. And that's straight out of your teachings. If you attending classes at the Dharma Center here, that'll be the basics. Now, on top of that, then deeper work. Getting in touch with myself in a deeper way. Because when you meditate, let's say you get more in touch with thoughts and feelings. There's a funny thing, like, if this was your paper of your contract of meditation, it says, yes, meditation, it will give you better ability to deal with stress, it will improve your memory, it'll improve, blah, 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 all the different things, Down here on the small print, it's going to say, and you're going to become sensitive. It's true. So it's important that you know how to deal with becoming more sensitive. And sensitive means you're more alive. You can ignore stuff and I don't care, that's not important. But then that's the nature of your life. And it's not that, you walk around being so sensitive and burst into tears at anything. That would be ridiculous. That's too much. But you want to be in touch with yourself and your emotions. Feel your love or feel your joy. So with meditation, mindfulness, it's just mindfulness. You arrive at a greater sensitivity. Now, the middle scope or middle vision of spiritual practice is what's going on inside of me. So you shut down the outside world a little bit. That is, you're not visual, you're not listening to things, you're not smelling or eating anything, tasting anything. You are into sensation. So of the 5 sense doors you have, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, you are still connected to the body. And the reason for that is because it's the sensations. That's the basis of your mindfulness. The movement of your chest and the sensations that are generated within that. And that, remember I talked about your left hand is your natural breathing and your body comfortable. Well, when your body gets comfortable, not falling asleep, comfortable and peaceful, there's actually a bliss within that. And then your attention is holding that or attentive to that. And they become more mixed, more connected. So you're really a lot more connected to your body. Okay? And in that then there is this, you could say, a natural sense of well-being, actually a bliss that can come from being a reasonably good meditator. Now, but in that then, of course, then there's the thoughts and feelings, and you could say it's our previously accumulated karma, our previous actions. So our anger or our attachment or our competitiveness or our jealousy or our being judgmental. I mean, all sorts of funny emotions come up. Okay, so now we're more inside. So you could say middle scope of spiritual practice is my inner life. Okay, now in that regards, it said, how do I understand myself? Now this end. So now we're going to go into like what that means. Okay, if I feel that I'm very independent, I can do what I want, when I want, how I want, and such, we're actually really out of harmony with reality. Not that we can make decisions, but for example, I mean, you ever consider right now that you're in a room full of air? We're like fish swimming in a swimming pool. Curious, but our medium is very thin. We can win around in it a lot, like I guess like a porpoise can do in the ocean, but this is our medium. So we're not independent, we're interdependent. We're not self-existent, we're interdependent. Air, just take a breath. Every cell of your body is participating with that. So when you go inside, what is your attitude about life? I'm independent. There's things I like, there's things I don't like. I'm independent. There's things I like, there's things I don't like. That's how I'm living my life. So you bug me, I'm going to hate you, or I don't want you, I'm going to try to avoid you. If you're nice to me, I want you in my life, you make me happy, like that, and that can apply to just everything. So the basis of that, though, is how I understand myself. And that's where then, in Buddhism, you have to say, okay, well, let me analyze my sense of self. Okay, so, okay, we're all sitting here, like I'm Jompa, and I remember your name, but here's Helga over there, and there's Rahul over here, So we have our sense of self. Okay, now this is getting in touch with yourself. You shut down the outside world, you're living thing. So what is my sense of self? Well, it's how I got up this morning, is how I'm feeling right now, how I had breakfast or didn't, whether I had my coffee or not, whether my bank account is fairly flush or not, is my family's okay, what's the weather. I mean, your sense of self. I mean, Helga sitting there, it's a dynamic of a bunch of reflections off of things, and that's how you're creating your sense of self. Now, I would say it's not invalid, but it's like that's how we feel. But that comes back to then, I am interdependent. I am not independent. Yes, I can have an egocentric attitude that I'm the center of the universe and everybody better bow and scrape in front of me, but that's a very unrealistic thing. I got a body from my mother and my father, thank you very much. I learned how to speak English or Spanish or whatever because when I was a little baby, they said, "Oh, darling little baby," you know, and they talked to you. So finally, you started learning a language. You know, you had to be interdependent with that. It's not like you popped out of the womb and said, "Hi, mom," or "Hola, mama, ¿cómo está?" You know, you were about, you know, and then you think. So again, you had to be interdependent. Then you got educated, you know, and it's like you went to school, and whether a good school or bad school, or good teachers or bad teachers, no, but you had to be interdependent. You learned your language a little better. You learned some other skills and qualities and things like that. So you were interdependent, not independent. Okay, then food. You know, I mean, you continually had to have dear Mother Earth give you, you know, the water and the sunshine and the food, all of those things, you know. So thank you so much to all of that from Mother Earth. Again, I'm not independent. I need to eat every day. So thank you, I'm interdependent. So your sense of self, my sense of self, oh, sort of waking up to like, what is my nature? I am interdependent, not independent, not isolated. Okay? Then I mean, you go to the big ones, okay? Feelings of love. It's not like you're walking down the street and, oh, I'm in love. No. You have to meet somebody and you go, oh, you look attractive to me, and oh. And then, I mean, what we do is we fall in love with our projection, don't we? And then we discover who the person really is. But the point is that we need somebody. We need interdependence for love, joy. You know, I mean, take, for example, if you have kids or grandkids, or even if you have a puppy dog, you know, and you come home and you give a treat to the puppy dog, and it wags its tail and is happy. Oh, that's sweet, you know. You feel joy, you feel happy feeling. Or if it's to a child, or just you give a present to somebody that they really wanted, and then you feel joy. All of that has to be interdependent. Now, you could then argue and say, well, what about all the bad feelings? The person that, you know, stabbed me in the back and treated me badly or abused me. Okay, that's all based on not being interdependent. Based on being very independent, not recognizing the nature of reality, and then, you know, what I like and what I don't like. So you could say, okay, yes, we're interdependent with the bad situations, but if we look at what makes us happy, it is our interdependence. And especially the good feelings of love and security and affection and joy and just holding someone's hand and saying, oh, you know, I feel nice. You know, you need that, you need interdependence. Okay? And then finally, if you've got a job, well, it's not like you just go to work and you get money. You know, you have clients. Thank you to my clients, the people that support me, you know, or whatever. So there's a shift in my sense of self, which, if I'm unconscious, just sort of bumbles along and, you know, today I'm beautiful and I comb my hair nicely, or today I'm wearing grubby clothes, or I smell, or it's hot. You know, instead of all of those normal reflections that are creating my sense of self, I'm reflecting on some positive good things. I'm appreciating my interdependence. Okay? So your sense of self is a little bit more open, not self-existent. Okay? So the middle scope of spiritual practice is a deeper work. It's sort of, if you went to a psychologist, it's a deeper analysis of your sense of self. But in this case, it needs to be wise. It's not just sort of be positive because I told you so. It's okay, get in touch with reality, which you're now doing because you're meditating, you're more in harmony with your body. And now you're using your intelligence to say, well, how do I really exist? My sense of myself exists because I'm interdependent. So I start to appreciate my interdependence, and I have a shift of attitude. Now, again, the root of getting really angry is that you're doing something I don't like, which is that I'm very independent, you're very independent, we're both different, and you're doing something I don't like, and I'm going to get angry at you because then, you know, you'll do what I say you want to do, you know. If you get angry enough, they go, yes, okay. Or they get defensive and they tell you to go away. Anyway, so the point is that delusions are based on a high sense of independence. Now, if there is somebody who's rude or hurtful or abusive, yeah, I mean, you don't hang around that sort of a person, or you just sort of try to avoid the situations that bring it up. But that person's just feeling very independent, maybe a little bit isolated, maybe a bit insecure, or whatever. I mean, there could be all sorts of causes for it. But so that you can actually have compassion for them, that they're really out of touch with reality. And you could even say, like, you could have empathy for that, because one day you were like that. You were totally like, you betrayed me. You don't love me anymore. You know? And so then you have that feeling, and then you acted out a certain way. Well, this person in front of you that's maybe acting that way, then they're having the same thing. They're sort of insecure. It's like, okay, breathe, get in touch with yourself, calm down. Anyway, so in regards to the middle scope of spiritual practice, it's an analysis on my sense of self. That how do I exist? And so you develop an appreciation of being interdependent, and that is the foundation of then saying, let's say I would like things to go well. Well, then it comes back to the initial scope. Well, then create some good karma. Create some positive environments around you. Be generous, or be ethical, be reliable, things like that. Be patient, or be compassionate. Whatever. Create those karmic continuities in yourself, and you'll have greater causes of happiness. I mean, if you ever considered, I don't know if it applies to everybody, but the job you got, wasn't it that somebody said, oh, well, hey, this job's available, or somebody sort of gave you a bit of a connection to something? Very often that's what it is. It's that the job we have was some sort of a connection. Somebody said something, or somebody said something nice about you on your resume or whatever. So the thing is that the word we have is because of connections. So again, I mean, it's just like you're starting to sort of really not be so independently, isolatedly self-existent. As well, I'm interdependent, and may I be a nice guy or a nice girl, and may I be supportive, and may I, when appropriate, be generous, and may I be helpful, and may I be give somebody a hug when they need a hug, like that. That's who I want to be, my sense of self. Okay, and so that's where then the analysis of your sense of self is getting more in touch and harmony with reality. That I am an interdependent being. Now, you're not non-existent. It's not like, I only know a couple of natures. Well, Helga. So it's not like Helga doesn't exist. Helga is a dynamic of causes and circumstances. Her mummy's just beside her. That gave her a name, I guess. And then all of the other factors that were the thing. So Helga is a reality. Helga exists. But she's a dynamic. She's interdependent. And so on the basis of that, you will find a lot of the normal negative emotions we have of jealousy, competitiveness, being judgmental, even inferiority complex, like I'm not as good as that other person. All of those they could say the carpet underneath them gets pulled out. They lose a foundation. They still exist a little bit because we're not like suddenly liberated of all of our problems, but the foundation of them gets removed. And so we have the initial scope. I've got potential. I know where I want to put importance and non-importance because things are impermanent. I'm inspired to be a more positive person because I got Buddha Dharma Sangha. I'm more conscious of how I'm creating my karma. That was the foundation. Now on top of that, then you have, hey, I'm a meditator. I'm getting in touch with myself and I'm starting to go, whoa, I have a whole different take on how I am living this world. Okay? Now I'm interdependent. So if you are in a bit of an intensive environment, well, maybe change it if you can in some way, or at least, find a bit of time to meditate where you can sort of pull back, get in touch with yourself, have personal clarity, that when you go back out to the family or the situation is complicated, at least you have a little bit of clarity. Those are options. That's potentiality. It's not like you just have to live there and be abused or beaten on. Okay? Anyway, so the middle scope is that. It's meditation on your sense of self, and coming to a better appreciation, understanding of it, that I am not self-existent. I am interdependently existent. And again, you can go to quite deep levels in that. I mean, if you were to really be at peace with yourself, you could, let's say, I'll give you an example. Because the middle scope of spiritual practice is where you could have what's called self-liberation. You free yourself of all the issues. Now, that is a deep meditative experience. It's not the sort of superficial one. But, so you start to appreciate, like, I'm interdependent, I'm not self-existent, or, the big Buddhist word is I'm empty of self-existence, or void of self-existence. But it really means is that I'm interdependent. But, okay, it depends. It's like a cup half full or a cup half empty. So it depends on how you're looking at it. So I am empty of self-existence, or I am interdependent. Pretty much the same thing. So in your meditation, again, so you have this nice peaceful sense of my body and my mind are in good harmony, or my body and my mind are in good harmony, okay, and then you sort of shut down the outside world, and as your mind gets very deep in your meditation, it said you sort of drop away from all of the normal imagery that you would identify with, like I'm a male, I'm a female, I'm tall, I'm short, I've got money, I don't have money, whatever it might be your particular stuff, you sort of fall away from that and just, hey, well, we call it our Buddha nature. It's like my innate goodness. In Hinduism it's a Satchitananda. In Buddhism it's Buddha nature, clear light and bliss. So, even the word soul, in Buddhism you could say, my soul is clear light and bliss. Now, clear light is the subtle energy which is not associating with the mundane things, just with my sense of presence or awareness, okay? And I'm peaceful, I'm in harmony with reality. So you could say, my energy is clear and peaceful, and my understanding is I am free of all independence, or I'm interdependent, I'm open, okay? And then you rest in that, and that's called personal nirvana, okay? So just if you want, okay, now again, I'm doing a really simplistic version of it, but the thing is that's basically what it is, that you end up in this place of great peace, deep inner meditative experience, and it's bliss, it's peace, it's personal liberation, and such like that. Okay, now that would be I'm personally liberated, okay, like I'm free. But we then go to the great scope of spiritual practice. And I'm sorry, I'm running through this a little quickly, but that's why you have the Dharma Center. So you can take years and years of teachings. Okay, I'm just trying to put it together so that it feels good for you, that you feel excited about your Dharma life. Anyway, so the great scope of spiritual practice actually relies completely on step number 2. My sense of self is not self-existent. Okay, now what does that mean? Well, that means is that, again, you could say, okay, well, look, I had a mother and a father for this body. I learned a language thanks to mom and dad, and also they took care of me and fed me and helped me grow up. So thank you very much, mom and dad. And then I went to school, so I learned how to be more intelligent. Thank you very much to school and teachers. Irrespective, some of them are good and some of them are bad. Okay, but I went to school, okay, and then I got educated to some. And then I got a career. Thank you very much to the company or the job I have and the career I have and the clients I have. Again, I'm interdependent. Thank you very much to Mother Earth for the water and the food and the things I get. Thank you so much. One day you should go to the local grocery store and do 3 prostrations to the broccoli. And say, thank you, broccoli, for being there. And then go to the cauliflower, and then to the avocados, which are now you can import again from Mexico. Anyway, I'm just saying, the joke, but the thing, thank you to those things, I often think like, wow, we're so lucky. Like, when I was in my 3-year retreat, 3 years of my life, I was up on the side of a mountain, 8,000 feet, once a week or once every 10 days, a Tibetan monk would come up and bring me potatoes and a couple other things. And I ate that for 3 years, okay? Every morning I had boulgur, which is sort of like porridge. At lunch I had potatoes or carrots, because they'd last a long time, I couldn't eat something fancy, and then a little bit of, I had soya beans, because that was sort of the protein, and bread, wheat, and such. And then in the evening I'd just have a little bit more of that. For 3 years in a row, nothing but that. So you go to a grocery store and you're like, wow. Actually the other one that I really liked is toilets. In India, I had to go off and poo around the corner of we were on the side of a mountain, so now I can go and sit on a throne and, and then I have hot and cold running water right out of the wall, I used to walk like a half a kilometer to go and get my water and carry it back on my back. So I do 3 prostrations in the bathroom and hot and cold running water, But the thing is, you see what I mean? It's appreciation. I'm normally in Mexico. I've been there for the last 20 years. So sometimes Mexicans sit there and they say, well, it's so horrible here. There's the narcos and all his problems, the violence and the corruption, you know, and this and that. And I said, man, if you went to like, I don't know, Nigeria or you know, Yemen or something like that, you come back and kiss the earth of Mexico and say, Mexico is one wonderful place I've ever been, you know. And I mean, for you guys, you're in El Paso, you're in America. I mean, wow, instead of, you know, appreciate, like, wow, you guys have freedom, do all sorts of stuff, you know, compared to, for example, being under the thumb of some military regime or something like that. You're really lucky. Anyway, so we're just talking about, I'm sorry, I'm coming back to, I'm interdependent, okay? And I want to establish the foundation of altruism. Okay, that's the idea. That's where we're at. So, on how do I arrive at an altruistic feeling? Is okay. First off, you say, okay, we're all interdependent. My body's interdependent. Rahul sitting here is interdependent. The atmosphere in El Paso is interdependent. You know, it's just this universal ocean of interdependence. Okay, so that's the nature of reality. Now let's shift over to, you know, sentient reality. And what that is that everybody wants to be happy, nobody likes to suffer. Whether it's you or me, or whether it's the mosquito, or whether it's the spider, or a cucaracha. Cockroach. I sometimes lose my Western words, my English words. Anyway, so the thing is that, okay, we're talking about the nature of life. Is that people want to be happy and don't want to suffer. Even scorpions or black little spiders, they want to be happy, they don't want to suffer, you know? Especially after they ate their husband, you know? I just don't. Okay, anyway, I think you guys have a sense of humor, yeah? Anyway, okay, so that. And so for in Buddhism, how do you arrive at a authentic altruistic feeling for everybody? For whether it's a scorpion, a black little spider, a dog on the street, or another human being. Okay, the basis of that is everybody's trying to be happy, nobody wants to suffer. Okay, now, in that, you know, people that do negative things are looking for happiness in unskillful ways. The person's a narco, thinks I can be happy by being a narco, you know, and whatever I'm doing for that. It's not a very skillful way to do it. I mean, you've got the competition of the other cartels. Probably one day you might get shot, let alone get put in prison. Not a very skillful way to live your life, you know. So it's not like that they're evil. It's just they're not very skillful, the choices they're making. Okay, so whether it's that or whether, again, I mean, if it's in your family, you've got a really bad family member, somebody that's really rude and obnoxious or very competitive or whatever, they're just trying to be happy in all the wrong ways. You know, it's an actually interesting thing. I mean, it takes a little bit of time to do it, but if you just look at others and you even look at yourself, like, how did you get up this morning? You know, did you brush your teeth or not? Did you wash your face or not? What did you eat out of the fridge? You ate out of the fridge what you wanted. You know, this will make me happy. This won't. You know, or maybe this is all that's available. It depends on you. But the thing is, you're like right now the posture you're sitting in. You pick that because you think, I can be happy. Or I can be happy. You know, like our movement of our body and our energy and our feelings and everything, it's all around, if I do this, I'm going to be happy. If I do that, I'm going to be happy. Then shift it to another person, like Rahul sitting there. You know, he's got the same thing. He's not any different than me. He wants to be happy, doesn't want to suffer. You know, maybe he's being skillful. I think he is. He's a nice guy. You know, but the thing is, so he's making decisions on that. Like, how can I be happy? Now, some of us are quite skillful at that. You know, we're positive, we're generous, we're ethical, we have principles, whatever. You know, we're a nice person. That's a skillful way to live your life. Some people are rude and obnoxious or competitive or manipulative. Okay, it might be marginally happy for certain situations, but it's generally not a very skillful way to live your life. So in Buddhism, altruism is based on the equanimity of us all, that we all like to be happy, none of us like to suffer, but some of us are better at it, or more skillful, not better, just more skillful at it than others. So when I look at everybody, my empathy says, hey, you just want to be happy. Now, it looks like you've made some pretty bad decisions. I'm sorry, you know, my compassion goes to you. But the thing is that you're the same as me, we're equal. Okay, so the foundation of universal altruism, which we call bodhicitta in Buddhism, is on a foundation of we're all equally wanting happiness and not wanting to suffer. And so when you look at anybody and the decisions that they're making, you don't judge them. I mean, you can appreciate, well, they're making some good decisions, or that person's not very skillful. And then you can say your heart goes to them and says, well, again, if you're a bit distant, it's easy. If you're close to that person, it's a bit harder sometimes, because, you're too tied up with that person's thoughts and feelings. But the bottom line is that still, I mean, okay, hey, I'm married, and I've been with her for 20 years. So when things don't go well, I can just remember, she thinks this is the way to be happy. And then, it's okay. I remember it was at the Rock Johnston, the big hooky guy out of Hawaii. He said there's 3 things that men have to learn when they talk to their wife. Yes, you're right, I'll try harder. Us guys mostly know what we're talking about. Anyway, but I thought it's a pretty good mantra, and it keeps your relationship going well. Anyway, I'm sorry. If you have relationship issues, go to a communication expert and learn how to talk to each other properly. I would highly recommend it. My wife and I have done it a couple of times on occasion. We're not enlightened. We're trying to do the best we can. So learn how to talk to each other. Not like, why did you do that? It's like, I feel uncomfortable. It's personal statement. Anyway, we're off topic, but the point is a skillful way to live our life. Okay? So the great scope of spiritual practice is where we're at right now. It's all about that it has a foundation. Everybody, humans, animals, insects, we all want to be happy. None of us like to suffer. Some of us have pretty good techniques to do that, and some of us have very unskillful techniques to do it. They're not evil or bad. It's just they're maybe making bad decisions. Now, I mean, obviously, animals and insects are just doing what they're doing. But if you see a cockroach, and you try to kill it, he's just running away because he wants to live. He doesn't want to. It's not like it's not like he means to it. And like for example, I'm a Buddhist, and we're not supposed to kill. Okay, well, in our house, we have screens on the windows and doors, so we try to always keep the doors shut and things like that. But there's dengue and malaria, especially dengue in Torreon. So, if a mosquito gets into my house, it's not like I'm going to kill you. It's like, I'm sorry, you're in the wrong place. It's like I feel sorry for the mosquito, but the thing is, hey, it's just, may you have a good rebirth. I want you to have me home. And I'm being realistic. Not all Buddhists would say that, but hey, I'm a lay person, you're lay people. If your house gets invaded by, ants or termites, you've got to do something. We're lay people. If we were monks or nuns, then maybe we just move to another house or something like that. So I'm just saying, being realistic. Don't do anything out of hatred. Just say, okay, I'm really sorry you arrived at the wrong place. But if you can, this is my main point, put screens on your windows and screens on your doors and try to open and shut them quickly. Don't just leave them open so the fly can come in and get killed by your raid or by your insect killer or whatever it is you use, So that's like, everybody wants to be happy, nobody wants to suffer. To the best of my ability, may I be helpful in this universe. To the best of my ability, may I not cause harm. So that's the Buddhist principles on universality. Altruism is that I'm trying to help the world be a better place. Why? Because I'm interdependent. Okay. So these in the greatest scope of spiritual practice, all these things come together. I'm interdependent. I'm trying to be skillful. And because I'm supported by so many things, may I offer something good back to the world. May I try to make the world a little bit of a better place. That's the personal sort of place where I'm coming from. Okay, like for us as a Buddhist practitioner. Okay, so that sort of winds down to where I wanted to be for this afternoon, but doesn't mean that we can't first have questions, and then secondly, if you we'll do meditation too. But okay, so right now it's open to questions or commentaries. Must have stimulated a few points in you guys. Come on.
What is your recommended approach to forgiveness? I know recognizing that the person is not skillful and
Well, forgiveness is important, but I mean, the thing is, it's, how you say, okay, I've had occasion where I've had students that have been abused and such. So it's not easy to sort of forgive the person that abused you. But, I mean, slowly, you can just say, boy, that person really had some bad ideas about life and what makes happiness. So you can just sort of say, I mean, it's not easy, but slowly you can bring yourself to say, okay, I a little bit understand you that you're a major jerk. No, no, I understand you that you thought that was the best thing to do. Now, you maybe can't even say that to the person because they just get angry and beat you or something like that. It's not possible. But from your side, you can have that understanding that, okay, they really have a lot of delusions. Hey, and then you have to look at yourself. You have to be in touch with yourself and say, look at what you've done. Maybe you've been rude to somebody because you thought it was a smart thing to do. So you can sort of say, okay, I've got empathy. I can't be as extreme as you are, but a little bit I can understand that you're thinking some of that's going to be happening. Now, that's one point. Now, the second point, though, on that is, and this comes back to when I was in Canada, I had a Dharma center, and one of my students kept saying to me, how do you deal with anger? And I'd say, well, blah, blah, blah. I give that standard Buddhist answer. And what I didn't understand was that her husband was beating her up. And he was alcoholic, and he'd beat her up. And as soon as I understood that, I said, I'm sorry, you should leave, go to the safe house. And she ended up having to do that. Yes, it was complicated, and she ended up divorced, and yes, there's financial problems and all that other stuff, but it's a lot better than being beaten. So I want to clarify that, if you're in an abusive relationship, it's like, maybe we accepted it in the past because of insecurity or other things, but it's not that we need to be there. Practicing patience doesn't mean that lets people abuse you. It's really important. Okay. So anyway, but I mean these are difficult decisions, but they create some good karma. Things can get better. That's why we have sangha. We have people that support us and help us on our path. Okay. Anyway, so. Yeah.
These are the factors, let's say you get this person and since then you want you get the feeling, you want to protect the person and doing good things for that person. And all of a sudden she turns it back on you and it's like you like create obstacles when you are developing your goals and dreams, you have to create those dreams for that individual, but those things are going to make a difference. And that person is like the one who has the most is the one who's like creating big things. How does the karma work? Because I'm aware of it. And I'm trying like to recall in the past and say, what is this? Like I can find the karma related action. Because every day I be reflecting like if I do something wrong, that I deserve to help this, not to be the victim anymore. But how does things work? It's like very complex.
Okay. Okay. Even the Buddha said the subtleties of karma are not easy to understand.
Yeah.
So, like, you can have a narco who's really rich and looks like they're living a wonderful life and everything like that, and yet they're a narco. How the hell is that happening? That they have such a good situation and I don't. Okay, that's, I mean, in Buddhism we'd have to say, well, somewhere in there they created some positive karma that they have wealth, but it's not a very stable situation. Anyway, but those are extreme situations. I think the best way to look at karma is to say, okay, who am I and what am I doing? Okay, so to the best of my ability, may I not cause harm. To the best of my ability, may I be helpful. Okay, so that's what we can manage. A lot of karma is fairly common sense, I mean, if I had a pretty good upbringing, I've got a pretty positive attitude about life. If I was brought up in a more complicated family, then maybe I've got some issues, but then the thing is, I've got psychology and I've got my Buddhist practice that maybe can help me. So a lot of the more, you could say, mundane traits and influences on us can be recognized as a continuity of some karma. So that's pretty understandable, common sense. The profound side of things, like why does that person, like you get somebody who does yoga, they're vegetarian or even vegan, they're such a nice person and they get cancer. How the hell's that happen, you know? Well, I don't know, maybe in their last life they're a horrible person. You know, and in the ultimate part of their life they changed their attitude and tried really hard, and so that's why they became a vegan yoga practitioner and blah blah. But they still had that karma from the past. Or, I mean, I'm just making stories up. But for example, I was born in 1950, so when I got to being 18 years old, I could have gone to Vietnam. Now I didn't because I'm a Canadian. I lived 20 miles above the border. 20 mi if I'd taken a rebirth 25 miles south, I would have been in the Vietnam War. Now, I might have had to kill people, and I wouldn't have maybe wanted to, but I would have maybe think. So I accumulated some karma, and even I didn't want it. I got put in that situation. So that's just an example. You know, I'm born 1950. Chances are my previous rebirth was World War II. You know, so there's all sorts of interesting things that I could have done that I don't know about, or that maybe I wasn't even that conscious or wanted to be participant in, but it happened. So the world's it's not like this sort of simplistic 1 and 1 is 2. A lot of sort of interesting dynamics. So in regards to karma, I mean, certainly I can see myself, if I have a good attitude, but one thing with karma, and this is really important, you got to be intelligent. You can't just say, I'm a virtuous person, I want to help you. No, you got to be intelligent, okay? So I guess there's a little disclaimer that says, collect good karma with intelligence. Okay, so like that's sort of the bottom line is, I can't answer for everything in the world, but I can certainly look at myself and say, okay, I'm going to try to do the best I can. Okay? It's funny. I was thinking the other day that I have a friend who is in a very complicated relationship. I mean, you can see the relationship for these two people is the worst thing that ever happened. It's so obvious. And so you can talk to them in intelligence and say, look, it's really obvious. And they say, yes, I totally understand it, absolutely. And tomorrow they're getting married. You know, like suddenly they say, oh, you know, a week later we're going to get married. What's it? Because it's sort of interesting that there's intelligence and then there's emotional feelings. And sometimes they're way out of harmony with each other.
Another question is rational and emotional. How do we put it?
Well,
Make the balance of it?
Well, that just, you know, I mean, having good friends that you respect and love that help you in decisions. I'm not saying you personally, just, you know, like those would be the things. Because you're right. I mean, I've had the experience where I've had someone who's so miserable and so unhappy in a relationship, and you try to give them some good advice, you know, thinking, oh, maybe this will help. And like I say, then a month later they come back and say, oh, we're getting married, you know, and they go, okay, whatever, you know. And then, you know, 6 months later they get divorced, but that's okay, you know, they did it. So they had their little learning curve, you know. So I've personally learned that, you know, you can give advice, but don't have an expectation that they're going to listen to you, you know. So this is part of this, but you're there. I mean, not being judgmental is really good, because if you're always just friendly and supportive, you don't judge them for what they do, then they'll always come back to you because you were supportive. And maybe somewhere in there, then something might open up a little bit that they do listen to what you have to say, you know, if it was appropriate or accurate, okay? So being a nice person, you know, with intelligence is good. Nothing wrong with it. Yeah.
So then you're running around this
Bit louder, please.
that goes to also with happiness and also with sadness. How do you separate briefly against the attached that goes to the rational? So how can you be really sensitive and also rational?
Okay. Okay. For example, I'm in a relationship. And I love my wife. I'm attached to my wife. You know, I'm attached to our relationship. But in that relationship, it's not like I'm going to be like going with expectations or demands on that situation. I'm going to try to offer the best I can to the relationship. So you could say that I don't think it's worthwhile to chastise ourselves if we're in love and we're deeply attached. But let's try to at least offer the best we can, a more enlightened relationship. So my commentary would be that, like, we're not Buddhas. So in regards to how we're living our life, at least try to offer an enlightened relationship to your partner. Don't offer all your garbage. Sorry. So I mean, we still have our garbage come up, like our anger and our attachment and our jealousy and our competitiveness, but they come up. But the thing is, at least we say, no. I try to offer an enlightened relationship to the people in my life. So my answer, because you said, how do you deal with, like, let's say all of the emotional sides of stuff? Well, just try to bring it into a more enlightened point of view, or how to live your life. Okay, that's my suggestion. I mean, I'm not perfect. I mean, ask my wife. But I try, and she tries. So the thing is that we're working together. And then I told a story in Juarez, so I'll repeat it. This is a good story for us as lay people. So in Buddhism, we have continuities of rebirths. We have, we've come from many, many, many rebirths over thousands of years. And so when we talk about Buddha Shakyamuni, it said that, for example, when he was very young, like before he became, on the path to becoming enlightened, he was a little boy in India running around in the jungle. And one day he was running on a path and he bumped into the previous Buddha called Buddha Sound of the Drum. Okay, so he bumped into this Buddha, but he was only like maybe a 5-year-old boy. And he looked at the Buddha and he went, wow, you're incredible. I want to be like you. And you could sort of say that, I mean, the way I like to think about it is that into this little 5-year-old boy's mind came this incredible light, this glorious being, a Buddha, and a fully enlightened being with all of the qualities that they could think. And the boy was innocent, and so it went to the depths of his heart. Anyway, so this is one of the stories of how Buddha started his spiritual path. Like, his name's Siddhartha is what we call it, the Bodhisattva. Anyway, so he went back to the village with that Buddha, and they took teachings and stuff, and then he lived a virtuous life, however it was. Then when he died, that very deep feeling that he had with that Buddha was in the next rebirth, because it was some of the karma that he'd accumulated. So again, he tried to be a virtuous person and positive and whatever it was, okay? So in each rebirth, as the Buddha progressed, or as Siddhartha, the Bodhisattva, progressed towards becoming enlightened, he created quality and such, and rebirth by rebirth. And so finally, so one of the first stories is this. So a long time ago, Siddhartha, and at that point he was actually with what was to be his future wife when he was the crown prince. Her name was Yodashara. Okay, so Siddhartha had taken a rebirth prior to that, and he was with Yodashara. They were in a thing. Anyway, and so he was a woodcutter. So they lived in the forest, and every day they would go off into the jungle and cut firewood, and then he'd go to the village and sell the firewood for money, and then he would buy the frijoles and the tortillas and bring them back to his wife, and she would cook them up and they would eat, and they lived very happily like this. Anyway, one day, they'd pray and meditate too. Okay, so they were spiritual path. So anyway, one day Siddhartha went out, and it was a really bad day. It was a really muggy day in El Paso. And he's in the jungle, and there's lots of mosquitoes, and he was cutting the firewood, and he couldn't get much, and it was miserable. And then he went to the village, and he tried to sell his firewood, and nobody wanted to buy it. It was another miserable thing, and he was getting pretty depressed. He was like, miserable day, Anyway, so then he started to walk home. Now, at the same time, though, Yodashara was back home, and she was doing the tortillas and making the frijoles for them to eat. And at the door of the hut came a mendicant, a monk, very old man. He was very withered and very dark skinned because he was always in the sun and stuff, very ugly, but he was a meditator and a monk. Anyway, and so he came to the door to beg. And it said that Yodashara, when she looked at him, she saw in his eye that he was very pure, like really pure man. And so she took all the frijoles and tortillas and she gave it to him. because he was a holy man, and it was an opportunity. So she said, please, please have all of this. She said, thank you very much. And he went off to the side of their little clearing in the jungle and started to eat his frijoles and tortillas. Anyway, so then of course Siddhartha came back, and he's had a miserable day, and he comes back and he's exhausted and tired, and he arrives at the door of his little hut, and there's Yodashara sitting there all happy. Hello, darling. And there's no frijoles and tortillas. And Siddhartha loses it. He just goes, I go to the jungle and I have to deal with the snakes and the spiders and the things, and I cut the firewood and I have to walk to the village and I do all this for my tortillas, and you gave my tortillas where? And he looked over and he said, to that dirty old man. And he said a bunch of horrible, like the, Pendeco and like, a lot of bad karma. So he was killing a lot of bad karma, and he said some pretty bad things to his wife and pretty bad things. Anyway, so he was really furious. He lost it completely. Anyway, at that moment, then his wife started to say a prayer. And she said, whoa, dear Siddhartha, in this moment you're accumulating a lot of really heavy karma, and this is going to cause your next rebirth most likely, because now you're swearing at a saint, that's really bad karma, it's that, And so you're going to be born ugly, and most likely stupid, and all of this. But may I still meet you, and may I still fall in love with you, and may I help you find the path again. So she was saying that prayer. And of course, this saint that was in the corner, he wasn't reacting. He was saying, this poor guy who's getting upset about frijoles and tortillas. What's his problem? So he's saying prayers for him too. Anyway, so at that point, Siddhartha calmed down a little bit. He went, whoa, like my wife's praying, and this guy over here is praying, and then, okay, I'm sorry, So he calmed down, and then he did 3 prostrations to his wife, and he said, please forgive me. And then he went over to the monk, or the saint, and did 3 prostrations, please forgive me. Anyway, but, and so then the monk gave them teachings, and they lived happily ever after, blah, blah, blah. But I like that story, because, I don't know if Raquel and I, my wife and I have been together in previous rebirths, but it's sort of funny. I came all the way from Canada to Mexico. That's some strange karma, like that. Anyway, so when we talk about, may I offer a more enlightened life to my partner, what I like to think of is, well, would it be nice to have, I don't know if it's possible really, but at least can I accumulate the karma that I have a more enlightened relationship with my partner, that whether we meet again or not, that's the karma that I'm taking rebirth by rebirth. So it's not a question that I have attachment and that I'm in love with somebody or something. It's what's the quality that I'm doing to that? So I just offer that as sort of an interesting thought, because so often we're caught in some small little detail, like, oh, you don't love me anymore, or you're not being nice to me anymore, or this and that, some small thing. Like, no, try to have a bigger vision about the relationship. Like, okay, we're together in this rebirth, maybe we try to do the best we can in a more enlightened path. We meet in the future rebirth, hey, let's continue. Sort of makes it hopeful, a nice thing. Anyway, so just some thoughts. I'm not saying all Buddhist teachers would talk about that, but I'm a layman, so I like to put my life into a more spiritual pathway. Okay. So, any other questions, commentaries? Sort of fun. Yes?
I would like to say that I really appreciate your emphasis on the word of expression and the verses you had into a couple of things yesterday. You changed the word. I think you said that rather than better, it's more skillful. You were very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, because even to say somebody's really bad, and that can be no, it's just they're not very skillful, and that way they still have potential. Actually, that you bring that up. There's a word again that's used in Buddhism. It's called ignorance. Like, ignorance is the root of suffering. And again, in the Tibetan language, one of the words that's used for that is called marikpa. But what's interesting is the root of the word is rikpa. Rikpa in Tibetan means to understand. Ma-rikpa means to not understand. So again, as a translation, to say that a sentient being is ignorant is not right, because if you were in the Tibetan language and speaking in the Tibetan way, you'd say that person doesn't understand, and so therefore they create negative karma. You don't say that person is ignorant. Now, the Tibetan language has, they don't understand, marikpa. They're dark, mukpa, or there's a couple other words. But the point is that that actually in English we always say, oh, ignorance is the root of samsara. But you can't say that in the root of the word ignorance is being intelligent. Whereas in the Tibetan language, there is that root. So I never say ignorant, as best as I can. I say I don't understand. I don't understand reality. It's not like I'm ignorant of reality. I don't understand reality. Okay, so again, it's going to be a process for the Buddhist vocabulary to be a little more polished for words that have a continuity towards a more enlightened understanding. Okay, so it's intriguing.
I'm not so
Good. Anyway, other questions? See, Jonathan.
I just wanted to add, for ignorance, there may be, I'm not sure, there's ignorance. Like when you're conscious that you're choosing to ignore.
Yeah, but we're talking here what's the root of samsara? Okay, I mean, so, okay, if you say, again, in the Tibetan language, it's rikpa or marikpa. I understand, I don't understand. Okay, so you can't say, I ignore, I'm not ignoring, I don't know. You see, it doesn't work. So it's semantics of language. And they do have a meaning, especially if you're to go to a very deep level of meditation and you have the wrong wording, you won't get in harmony with reality because your concept will be blocking that. So an example of just a progression of wisdom would be, okay, everything is impermanent. Everything's impermanent. Yeah, that's easy. Okay, it's not arbitrary. There's a continuity of causes and circumstances. Yeah, that's okay. Everything is interdependent. Yep, that's okay. Now, in the normal progression, there's one step, but I like to say that everything is open. It's a way to phrase it, but what it refers to is, okay, I'm in this room, things are impermanent, yeah. It's got a continuity of causes and circumstances, yeah. I mean, the carpenters and the wood and blah, 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 okay. It's all interdependent, yeah, because it's the age of the building and blah, blah, it's interdependent. It's all open to what? Change. It's empty of any self-existence. So that progression of thoughts gets you to be open, empty of any self-existence. And one of the words used in Mahamudra is open like the space of the sky, which means to be non-obstructive. So if you were in a state of realization, your mind would be non-obstructive to the flow of reality. Because to be obstructive is somehow you're still holding on to something being existent. So in the highest level of meditation, when you're, let's say, close to both reality or God or whatever you want to call it, you are non-obstructive. You are empty of any self-existence. And then you're at one with the ultimate. Okay? Anyway, so there's some quite important semantics in the use of language in approaching a personal, internal, deep experience. Okay? Lobsang would be good on that. He's a resident teacher for here. He's studied semantics, so you could ask him about that. Like there's this whole thing about one of the initial trainings that a monk would get is called how to say things correctly. It's called tarik and lorik. It's how to say things that they have a harmony or have a proper continuity. Okay. Okay. So last question, because we should have a coffee break and chit chat a little bit before we break. Any other questions, commentaries? Okay, the window of opportunity is closed. We're going to meditate at least for 10 minutes, because it's not always this thing, but remember you have the Dharma Center, you have regular sessions, so you have a lot of chance to practice. I think my job is to sort of try to make things work for you. So take a comfortable posture. Remember that at the beginning we talked about my body is reasonably comfortable so that I can breathe properly. I have a good motivation Yes, I'd like to be more enlightened in my life. I'd like to offer more enlightened relationship with others. I have natural breathing. And in this case, we focus on the movement of our chest. And we try to bring our attention to hold that, or to be with the natural breathing. This part of a sense of I'm relaxed, I'm at peace with myself. And as we develop that, we have the familiarity with my natural breathing and my sense of peace, or my personal space, all part of that experience. As we continue to meditate, just check up if you're actually feeling comfortable and peaceful with yourself. That is part of your conscious experience. And tying that with natural breathing, I'm at peace with myself, I'm attentive to the sensations of my breathing. That becomes a very useful package for you for being more mindful in your regular activities. Bringing our awareness to our breathing. Although our session was short, it still was an accumulation of karma. So we dedicate our meditation and this morning for a more enlightened life. We offer that completely for the benefit of all. And bring your meditation to a conclusion, please. So do remember, we do have the wonderful Dharma Center of Lobsang for here, so you guys have lots of sessions that you can attend and meditate. That's good. And of course now, the center set up coffee and tea and cookies. So if we don't eat it, they don't get the karma. So we want them to have the karma of having lots of cookies and cakes for the future. So anyway, with that thought then, we can all, let's relax. It's now 10 to 12. We come back at 2 o'clock for the initiation of Tara, which will include, if you would like, you can take refuge for the first time if you've never taken it. I will describe how taking refuge, but I'm not certainly, please become a Buddhist. No, become a nice person. If you'd like to be a Buddhist, okay, that's fine. If you're already a Buddhist, then there will be that, but it's not like you retake refuge, you just reinforce it. There will be Bodhisattva vows, which just means I'd like to be a Bodhisattva, working for the benefit of a better universe. And then finally there will be the initiation of Tara. Now, what that just means is, and I described this yesterday, is that you'll be given the cell phone number of Tara. That's her mantra and her meditation. Now, maybe you don't believe in it, but there are divine beings in the universe. They're not creators of our experience. They're there, and if we have a good, pure heart, we can communicate with them. So the Tara initiation is, one way you can say is, it's may the divine feminine, enlightened activity be more part of my life. I would like to identify with and have Tara more in my life, that I have better enlightened activity in the things I do. That's one side. And, just actually that's it. So anyway, at 2 o'clock, we will have the initiation and the some teachings on how to do Tara practice. So something to look forward to. Divine feminine, yes. Okay, so thank you very much.